Welcome to The Explainer. If you've ever found yourself wondering how successful startups actually measure their growth, how they cut through all the noise to figure out what truly works, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a clear, structured look at the legendary lean analytics principles, and we're zeroing in on a framework that completely revolutionized how we track a product's lifecycle.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts, I want you to ask yourself honestly, are you measuring growth or are you just feeding your ego? Look, it is incredibly easy to fall into that dangerous trap of tracking numbers that just go up and to the right. It makes us feel great, sure, but actually, it tells us absolutely nothing about the underlying health of the business.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's the ultimate showdown, vanity metrics versus actionable metrics. Vanity metrics, your page views, social media likes, raw app downloads, they look fantastic in a press release, but they do not pay the bills. Actionable metrics, on the other hand, things like active users, churn rate, actual revenue, these reflect reality. Actionable metrics actually change your behavior. They tell you exactly what you need to do next.
To keep us focused purely on actionable data, here is our treasure map for today. We'll cover Enter Pirate Metrics, AARR, then acquisition and activation, the power of retention, revenue and referral, and finally, the one metric that matters. Section 1. Enter Pirate Metrics, ARRR. This is Dave McClure's framework for startup growth. It was famously coined by investor Dave McClure, and it gets its name because, well, it sounds exactly like a pirate. But more importantly, it perfectly maps out the exact life cycle journey a user takes with your product.
These 5 sequential steps form the spine of our narrative today. A user is acquired, they're activated, they're retained over time, they generate revenue, and finally, they refer others. By breaking growth down into these 5 specific buckets, startups can pinpoint exactly where their business is thriving and where it's springing a leak.
Section 2. Acquisition and activation. This is all about getting them in the door and showing value. This top-of-funnel stage is absolutely crucial for making sure users actually realize the value of what you've built.
First up, acquisition. To put it simply, this is the act of generating awareness and bringing prospects into your funnel. It's the traffic hitting your landing page, the clicks on your ads, or even just the foot traffic walking past your physical storefront. But remember, just because they walked in the door doesn't mean they're actually going to buy anything.
And that is exactly where activation comes in. Now, activation is not just getting someone to hand over their email address or create an account. No, it is that crucial aha moment. It's the exact moment when the user finally grasps what your product does for them and experiences its core value firsthand. Honestly, if they don't get to this moment, they're gone.
This breakdown brilliantly illustrates the difference between the two. For acquisition, we track the top-of-funnel noise. How much traffic we have, how much it costs to acquire a visitor. But for activation, we track commitment. Did they complete the onboarding process? Did they actually use the core feature? Activation metrics tell you if your marketing promises actually match your product's reality.
Section 3. The power of retention. Why keeping users is harder than getting them. We are now shifting to the absolute make-or-break stage for literally any startup.
Retention essentially means encouraging users to return and exhibiting persistent, repeated engagement over time. Think of your startup like a bucket. Acquisition is the water pouring in at the top. But if your product doesn't retain users, well, your bucket is full of holes. All that time and money you spent pouring water into the top, completely wasted if it just leaks right out the bottom.
I want to pause here for a second on this quote directly from Lean Analytics. A good metric changes how you behave. This is absolutely a core truth. Tracking retention forces founders to face some pretty uncomfortable truths about their product. Because if people aren't coming back, your product just isn't good enough yet. You have to change your behavior, stop burning cash on marketing, and go fix the product.
So the crucial point is this number right here, 5%. Now, churn rate is the inverse of retention. It's the percentage of people who actually leave. For a scalable, healthy startup, your monthly churn rate needs to be below 5%. In fact, the absolute best companies out there are hovering around 2%. If you're bleeding more than 5% of your users every single month, you don't have a growth problem. You have a retention problem.
Section 4. Revenue and referral. Making money and multiplying growth. Once you finally have a product that people actually stick with, this is the exact stage where a cool side project transforms into a sustainable, compounding business.
Looking at this comparison, you can really see how we track financial health right alongside organic growth. For revenue, we're looking closely at things like customer lifetime value, which is how much a user pays us over their entire relationship with us, and the average revenue per user. Then for referral, we look at invites sent and the viral coefficient. Basically, we're tracking the word-of-mouth growth that's driven by your happy, retained users.
Now, the most interesting math here is the viral coefficient, which measures the compounding effect of users inviting others. For your business to grow purely organically and sustainably, this number must be greater than 1. That literally means every single user you bring in successfully invites at least one more user, who then invites another. That right there is the true engine of exponential growth.
So when you combine strong retention, solid revenue, and a viral coefficient that actually works, what does it produce? Well, according to the Startup Accelerator Y Combinator, the ideal weekly growth rate for a healthy startup is between 5 and 7%. If you are consistently hitting these numbers, your Pirate Metrics funnel is operating beautifully.
But here's the catch. Tracking all of these Pirate metrics at the exact same time can be incredibly overwhelming. So that brings us to Section 5, the one metric that matters, or OMTM, focusing your efforts. This is basically Lean Analytics' golden rule for applying the framework without completely losing your mind.
The one metric that matters, the OMTM, is the single critical number that a startup focuses on during its specific current stage of growth. Instead of staring at a dashboard of 50 different numbers and panicking, you pick the one metric that is most relevant to your exact stage. If you're still validating your idea, your OMTM might be activation. If you're trying to scale, it might be that viral coefficient.
So why does this hyper-focused approach work so perfectly? Well, it immediately identifies your biggest business risks. It sets a crystal-clear definition of success for your team. It aligns the entire organization around a single goal. It fosters a culture of rapid experimentation. And honestly, most importantly, it prevents data puking. You know, that overwhelming distraction where you just have so much data that you end up doing absolutely nothing with it.
So I'll leave you with this to think about as we wrap up today's explainer. Look at your own business, your own project, or your team. Through the lens of these Pirate metrics, acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral, where is your biggest leak? And based on that, what is your one metric that matters right now? Figure that out, ignore the vanity metrics, and watch your true growth begin. Thanks for joining me today, and keep building.